So I think it's important here. He gave his opening statement. The lawyer gave his opening statement, and now they're going to damage him by saying that his security clearance was yanked. And what that does is it puts something in your mind that he shouldn't be trusted. And his secret security clearance was yanked after he had made this investigation. So while he was investigating, he had the security clearance, which is important. But they make you think he's did something wrong because it's been yanked since then.
No, I think that it's important to state clearly the amount of evidence we had and the basis for why we proceeded. Why we proceeded as we did is because we had a strong case, as I set forth in the final report.
But your final report makes what seems to be conclusive determinations of President Trump's guilt, as opposed to laying out simply the facts and the evidence that you have. You draw those conclusions that you're...
And never once does he say that President Trump is guilty. His job as a prosecutor is to take the law. So let's say the law says you are guilty of larceny because you stole $500. He has to prove that you stole the $500. And then ultimately it's up to the jury to decide if you stole that $500. But he just can't say you stole it. He has to give evidence. So he never calls President Trump guilty, but he said that he could prove beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond what the law says what was done wrong, he could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is very, very important. They're trying to say that he said President Trump is guilty, which he has never said President Trump is guilty.
Her report states his assessment of the evidence. Mine does as well. And as I said, I feel and feel to this day that we had a very strong case. And so I communicated that.
Okay. But you would agree that it's the role of the jury, not the special counsel, to weigh the facts and determine guilt?
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah, he says ultimately yes. So he has never called President Trump guilty. What he has said is, as a prosecutor, he had the evidence to prove, once again going back to the larceny, that you stole $500.
Record subpoenas for members of Congress, we have some very serious concerns about why.
And so now these 100-something people that he said President Trump has called on January 6th, which some are congressmen and some are senators, are now saying, how dare you look at our phone records? And what he is saying is that if there was conspiracy where two people spoke to one another, listen, he's got to follow where it came from. And if he's investigating Trump, then, and during that January 6th time, he was making all these phone calls to members of Congress, or when the attack was happening on the Capitol, he was making all these phone calls, and that day of the certification, no, there is conspiracy.
And then we worked with the Justice Department and your counsel to make sure you had access to everything you needed to prepare for today. Did that occur? Did you have enough access to the information?
See, and here's where they talk about him losing his security clearance. Watch.
Okay, so we asked the Justice Department to make all your files available, to allow you to go to the Justice Department whenever you wanted to, with your lawyers, whoever you wanted to. And I just wanted to confirm that you had the opportunity to review whatever you needed in your files before today.
Yes, we reviewed the files.
Okay.
That's correct.
There might be an issue with classified materials. We don't
See,
intend to ask
here it is.
anything about anything classified. Obviously, if your security clearance is no longer valid,
Your security clearance is no longer valid. So it's making it like he did something wrong to lose his security clearance, right? And that impugns him and makes you think that his testimony is less than what it actually is. Because when he made this investigation, he had a security clearance. But watch now what he does also. Now he somehow says, okay, we're going to go back to a lawyer from the 1940s, the olden times, the better times of the United States.
November 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Watch.
And I think you guys started reviewing it somewhat.
And ask him like what he believes about what a prosecutor is and everything else. We're not in the 1940s.
You have referenced in your pleadings, I believe, and also in your public statements you've made, the famous Robert Jackson speech entitled "The Federal Prosecutor" that he delivered at the second annual conference of the United States Attorneys in 1940. You're familiar with the Robert Jackson speech?
I am.
Okay. And this is widely available on the internet. I didn't make copies for everybody. Everybody can Google it right now as long as your phones are working. And I'm just going to flag some things that Robert Jackson said and just get your reaction to see if you agree with it or not. He says in the second sentence, the prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than any other person in
But
America.
by saying that he's lost his security clearance, you're saying that there's a defect in his character. And so as he reads off like what this prosecutor should be,
Jackson stated,
he's saying Jackson has the best model, and clearly Jack Smith is not that model because he lost his security clearance.
Do you agree with that?
It gives doubt to what's happening right now.
On page 4 of his remarks, in the penultimate paragraph,
And ultimately gives doubt to everything you're about to hear.
states, "What every
And that's a
prosecutor
powerful
is
sort of
required to do is
psychological
to select
maneuver.
cases for prosecution, and to select those in which the offense is the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain." Would you agree with that?
Yes.
If a prosecutor is obliged to choose his cases, it follows that he can choose his defendants. Therein is the most dangerous power of the prosecutor, that he will pick people he thinks he should get, rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted. With the law books filled with a great assortment of crimes, a prosecutor stands a fair chance of finding at least a technical violation of some act on the part of almost anyone. In such a case, it's not a question of discovering the commission of a crime and then looking for the man who committed it. It is a question of picking the man and then searching the law books or putting investigators to work to pin some offenses on him. Do you agree with that?
I do, I think, yes.
Okay. It is here.
So, in looping his loss of his security clearance, they're trying to make it like he is a disgruntled employee,
Attached to the wrong political
and that's why he did all these things. And so, the Jackson lawyer they're referring to refers to a malignancy that could happen in a prosecutor. But see what he says. They're just principles.
Fear or hysteria, political, racial, religious, social, and economic groups often, from the best of motives, cry for the scalps of individuals or groups because they do not like their views.
And no, he was just tasked to seeing whether or not President Trump had like the plans to like a nuclear bomb in his bathroom, and he did.
As those
Or did President Trump call members of Congress and try to make them slow down the constitutional process of
to fair play and sports
both violently and through, I would argue, RICO, to stop the certification of Biden as president? And yes, he did.
tempers
So
zeal with human kindness,
how is that so hard?
who seeks truth